Greetings, everyone. My name is Sean Bland. I am both the 7th District Public Relations Director, and I also am an owner of Kamari Golf, dedicated to educating individuals in the world of golf. Um, just to kind of introduce my guest today a little bit, but I'm going to let him do his own introduction. This individual that I'm going to have on today kind of inspired me in golf. Everybody talks about Tiger Woods. Everybody talks about, a lot of the individuals, but there are some local heroes that have inspired a lot of individuals that look like me to not only stay in golf, but to learn about it and be a part of it. Uh, he's not only a great golfer, we're going to get into his history a little bit, but he's also a fraternity brother of mine. And we'll get into a little that background and how we met. But he also today has a very special relationship with a person that recently passed. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to sit down and talk to him. So without further ado, let me bring my guest on. His name is Brother T.C. Newman. Brother T.C., how are you doing?
Sean, I'm doing well.
I think we last saw each other at the state meeting in Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that was correct a couple months ago.
You were doing my favorite activity. You were sitting down and eating, and I interrupted you for a few minutes just to enjoy your company and let you know how much I appreciate the influence you've had on me. Now, so that people can kind of at least know both fraternity and normal, can you give us a little introduction of who you are and kind of tell us a little bit about some of the highlights in golf and also a little highlight in some of the activities you gotten into with Omega?
Okay, let's start off as you said. I'm Brother T.C. Newman, 10 Pi 70, Morgan State University, at the time Morgan State College, and I was fortunate to be number 10 on the Grand Funk Railroad, where there were 44 of us at Morgan State. I majored in mathematics, and I also was there on an ROTC scholarship. So I was in ROTC. I ultimately became the brigade commander of the ROTC unit at Morgan State. And when upon graduation was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the infantry, went to Ranger School, Airborne School, Infantry Officer Basic School, was assigned at Fort Hood, Texas for several years in a mechanized infantry unit. And after doing that for a few years, I decided I wanted to go to flight school. I always like a challenge. And so I went to flight school and ultimately graduated as an aviator, flew Hueys. And after a couple of years of flying Hueys, I transitioned into the Cobra gunships. The military took me all over the country. So I've lived in Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Seattle, Germany, Korea, among other places.
Is there anywhere that you haven't lived? Is probably the first question we need to ask.
I always joke with folks, I haven't been to the Dakotas yet.
Okay, well,
I don't know why there are two of them, but I haven't been there.
Well, now you have a goal to at least get
right.
there and say, I've been just about everywhere.
Just to go there, right.
Now, many people don't know that it's a rarity to have said. Now, let me back up just a second. People like myself that play golf always dreamed of owning and running a golf course. Why? Because we're not smart and we love we love the game, but don't understand all of the aspects of the intricacies of running a golf course. But you've had that opportunity and you did a very good job with it. Can you tell us a little bit? Because I know that there's a little story of how you ended up getting into it after your military career. Oh, well, actually, it was after
After my
your
corporate career, after the
corporate career.
military, I went into a management development program at Pfizer Pharmaceutical. And that was significant because that was the very, actually, I think I did Pfizer maybe 6 or 7 months. And we were going to an offsite business meeting in Arizona. And that was the first time I had ever picked up a golf club.
Wow.
As those business meetings go, you work hard all morning, and then that afternoon you have some recreational activities. And the group was sort of dividing up between horseback riding. Uh, Part of them went ballooning, tennis, and golf. And I noticed the majority of the guys were playing golf. So I go out with the group. Didn't know a thing about it. They said, "Oh, you can get everything you need out there." So I rented the clubs. Didn't even have golf shoes. Had tennis shoes on. And a few of them hit the ball. And they said, "Okay, TC, go up, hit the ball down there." And okay, I watched. And I sort of took a few practice swings. Teed up the ball. The very first shot I hit probably went, and this is not an exaggeration, about 320 yards straight down the middle of the fairway. I was about 30 years old at the time. And
Wow. So
and
you
there
didn't
was
have a back at 30
right.
then.
But and this was with Persimmon Woods.
Ooh.
And I pick up my tee and I look back, and it's dead silence. There's about 20 guys because I realize now they were standing there waiting to have a big laugh after I took my first golf swing, because I told them it was my first. And my boss looked at me and said, "I thought you said you've never played golf." I said, "This is the first time I've ever been on a golf course in my life." He said, "But you hit that ball." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've been playing my golf all my life, and I've never hit a ball that far or that straight." Well, as the day went on, I proceeded to do some of the things they expected me to do, spray it all over the place. But it was like something grabbed me then and said, "I love this game."
Yep.
And I think what I loved about it was, as your age, you can no longer run the football the way you used to run it. You can shoot the basketball for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then you're ready to sit on the sideline. Can't run track like you used to. But this is a game that takes skills. But as I learned, that first hit was because of some inherent hand-eye coordination and ability. But what I didn't have that sustained me at the time were fundamentals.
Correct.
And I think, as I see a lot of my brothers who are playing, they get by on athletic skills, which a lot of us fortunately have been blessed with. But to progress to the next level, you've got to learn fundamentals. And that's like everything in life. Sometimes you can get by, but then as you get into higher levels of competition, fundamentals, training, practice, and all those things come into play.
So,
So with Pfizer, same thing. I was in New York. While in New York, I worked in Brooklyn, Manhattan, New Jersey, and I lived in the same place. I just commuted in a different direction every time. And then when I was in Brooklyn, I got promoted and transferred to Southern California to a division of Pfizer, where I was the chief human resources officer for a small division of Pfizer. And that's where golf really took hold. We were seasonal in New York. Got to Southern California, it was year round. And So I continued to enjoy the game, got an opportunity to play some fantastic venues. Uh, a lot of it because of who I worked for. They had a lot of great meetings at a lot of great golf courses. And so I honed my game and I learned in the business side of corporate America, golf was very important from the sales aspect, from the networking aspect. For example, you're a sales rep and you have a client, you stop by his office. You're lucky to get 15, 20 minutes of his time. You take that same individual and invite him out to the golf course on the weekend at your country club or at the local municipal course. You got 4 to 5 hours to spend with that client.
Yep.
So that's where you learn that, oh, there's something magical about this game. I told you about the position I had in Southern California. And I didn't realize it until maybe halfway through the round. I was interviewed for that job on the golf course. My
Wow.
potential boss and his assistant, his number two, were in the foursome with me. And we started off like every other day. You make your side bets and all that. And then the questions about my role at my current job and how I handled certain situations. And they had heard about this. And then it dawned on me.
I'm in an interview.
They're interviewing me. I hadn't applied for this position, but it was probably about a week or two later. I was officially called to his office to talk further about the position. But the beginning of that was on the golf course. You can learn a lot about a person on the golf course. Sean, I know you have some brothers who don't add very well on the golf course.
No.
They hit the first one in the woods, second one on the water, chip up, 3-putt. You ask them, what did they got? Oh, that was a bogey.
Or a birdie. And you like, how did you get to that point in your life?
So that says a lot about you right there.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the professional level of golf, there are no referees. There are rules officials who come out and make rulings, but there are no referees. If you do something wrong, who calls the penalty?
You have to call it on yourself.
The player.
Yep.
So the game of golf can really reflect who you are, and because the way you play golf, the way you keep score out there, the camaraderie, the way you communicate out there, it's the same way you do it in your corporate jobs. Same way you go about life.
And that's more of a networking situation from the golf perspective that I don't think a lot of people really understand how important, like you said, that piece of the golf world is, because you do get to spend so much time in close quarters with individuals, and they get to kind of see what kind of person you are.
Right.
And then you get to see what kind of person
they are. Right.
So as you picked up the game of golf and you got better, what made you decide to go into owning and operating a golf course?
Well, it wasn't a direct line. After I left Pfizer, I had a 6-year consultant job with Warner Brothers in the same capacity. And when that consultancy work ran out, I was a little too young I was capable of retiring, but a little too young to do nothing. I was president at the time of the 100 Black Men of America, the Orange County chapter. And we had a program called Passport to the Future. And young men that we started mentoring in the 9th grade, and we took them through the 12th grade. And one of the modules of the program, we were talking about economic development. And I was giving a discussion to the young men And sometimes when you start talking to someone,
Mm-hmm.
it starts bouncing back to you.
It's kind of like you hurt your own feelings sometimes.
Yes.
Okay.
And give you an example what we were talking about. We talked about the development of African Americans, our history, and we look at from 1765 slave to 1864 before the Emancipation Proclamation. Literally 100 years to get our freedom. But it wasn't over then. 1864, 65. It wasn't until 1964 that the Civil Rights Act was passed. So we were just getting our civil liberties. 100 years to get our freedom, with 100 years to get our civil liberties. And then we realized we're so far behind economically.
Uh-huh.
And if all the things that we were reading and teaching at that time, at the rate we were going, based on our population percentage and the percentage of Black owned businesses and Black wealth, we were on track to take, guess what, 100 years to get economic. So we were encouraging our young people to think about getting your education, but then think about how you translate that into economic growth. And at the time, I was sitting there thinking, why are we telling them? What could we do at this point in time? And I looked at various opportunities, some other ventures I looked at getting into, and an opportunity came along to combine a passion with a vocation. And a lot of, as you said earlier in our interview, a lot of folks don't understand the business side of golf. You go out there, the fundamentals, play the game. But golf is a business, it's an industry. It's a
Right.
multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, we spend in this country billions of dollars a year on golf balls. Billions.
And lose them.
And we lose them. Golf balls. So that's not even to talk about the clubs, the clothing, but the golf course itself, there's the aspect. You got the retail side, you got the food side, and you have the golf course. But the golf course within itself has even more businesses. Now you got to learn about the agronomy. You got to learn about when to cut the grass, how short to cut the grass, how often to cut the grass, when to fertilize, how often to fertilize. And you have to balance that with the play. I mean, if you leave it to the superintendent, we used to joke about it. If you left it to the superintendent who maintained the golf course, nobody would ever play because he wouldn't want anybody to mess it up.
Yep.
If you left it up to the pro who was running everything, the superintendent would never have a chance to do anything on the golf course because all he wants to do is get people out there playing.
Yep.
So you have to balance that aspect of it. People don't realize we had a mid-range public golf course. I spent $500,000 a year on maintenance of the golf course.
And just so that you know, it was a beautiful golf course. It was
Thank you.
well maintained.
Thank
So, uh, that was one of the things that I was very impressed about. Um, and this is kind of when you and I kind of met, was during the time. I think it was the celebrity golf tournaments were the
It was
first ones that
the international headquarters moved
right,
their celebrity golf tournament from Atlanta
Georgia.
to
Yeah,
Jacksonville. Uh, Two reasons. One, there was a African American who owned the golf course. Two, he happens to be a brother,
correct.
which is part of that economic development theme. If we can't learn to support our own, and give back to our own community, it's going to take us more than that 100 years I've talked about to get the true economic development and equality that we've talked about.
And it was a good, solid weekend of fun and excitement. I don't know if you remember, but the year you pulled out and had the Omega golf cart, I thought that was the greatest thing in the world at that time. I was young, I didn't know a whole lot about stuff, but I enjoyed it.
Well,
Uh,
that goes into the marketing also. We
yeah,
actually had a old golf cart sitting on the property, and I like to tinker, and so basically we took apart this old golf cart, rebuilt it, repainted it purple and gold, of course, put a little wood, chrome wheels, and a fraternity symbol on the front of it.
and the eyes of young brothers like me at the time started sparkling. Uh, but you did something that was unique in the beginning with the celebrity golf tournament that a lot of people don't, I mean, they've started doing since then, which was you would have, and this is, we're going to start getting towards one of the pros that we were talking about. I'm trying to transition a little bit,
Hmm.
but, being a young golfer at the time, I think I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I believe, because this was a
Right.
while back. We won't date it because then people start laughing at both of us, and we're still young men.
That's right.
Uh, but in that situation, there was a gentleman that you were able to have a good relationship with that later became a brother, and uh, you did something unique. You put him on a hole and had the bros come through and basically challenge him on a par three. And if they beat him, they got golf balls, and which were much needed at the time. But I'm gonna put a picture up of this young man at the time. Let's see if we can get that up there next to you. Actually, I'm gonna blow it up first and put you in there at the bottom with. Who is this young man right here at
All
the
right.
time?
That is the late great Lee Elder.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's a young you too, ain't it?
Yeah, as you said, we're talking a few years ago.
Just a few years ago back.
Talking
But
a few years ago.
he looked exactly like I remembered him those few years that he came out and he was such a wonderful individual to meet and talk to because it didn't matter if you were old in golf or young in golf or whatever. He just enjoyed being around the game. And he would talk, and I'm going to say it just like it, he would talk smack with
Yes, he
every brother that came around. And, to look at him at the time, you didn't think that he had that game in him. But, buddy, let me tell you, he did everything he could to get that ball inside of yours on that green. And
did.
and it was just an awesome experience as a young golfer to just be around a true pro. I played in the Ted Rhodes tournament in September, and these guys were the beginning of us being able to get on public golf courses and really being able to compete way before this Tiger Wood craze. And I don't think
Way
people
before.
understand the history that these men had. But just to sit and talk to them, you wouldn't realize how I never really understood until recently that I was in the presence at that point in time of greatness in the world of golf at that point in time. And and
Truly,
that's go ahead, I'm sorry.
truly one of the great ones. And you gotta to put it in perspective. I talked earlier about the 100 years to get our civil rights. That was across everything in our lives. It wasn't just the movie theaters, the restaurants. It was everything, athletics, major universities. You couldn't go. You know, they talk about HBCUs, and they there are a lot of individuals say it, and they say it almost in a derogatory way. So I've coined this way. I refer to the major universities as the historically segregated universities and colleges, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about history. We're talking not talking about a school being a black school now. We were historically black. Well, Lee Elder, Calvin Pete, Charlie Sifford, Jim Dent, those guys used to play on what was called the United Golf Association. It was our mirror image of the PGA. And Brother Elder, at one point, won 18 of 22 events. No one has ever been that dominant at any
Yep.
level. 18 of 22 events. But the downside of it, some of those events for winning first place, he might have gotten $1,000, maybe 1,000, maybe two, but sometimes you would get $500.
Yep.
They wanted to play on the PGA Tour. They had the ability to play on the PGA Tour. But up until 1961, we're talking recent history, 1961, the PGA was Caucasian only to be a member of the PGA that late. So there's some great books, and I'll have to admit, I became very interested in the history of golf when I became more associated with it. There's some great books out there. I encourage all the brothers to read these books. Forbidden Fairways,
Yes,
the
that's
first one, Calvin Sinnett.
yep.
Read Forbidden Fairways. Uneven Lies, Pete
Another good one.
McDaniels, who's a good friend of mine who's in Atlanta. Just Let Me Play by Charlie Sifford, about his role. And there's another one, I can't think of the author, called This Game of Privilege. They all talk about what Ted Rose and Bill Spiller went through, having the talent, but not being able to showcase it on the biggest stage. In fact, little trivia for you: the first black to play in a PGA event, you know who that is?
Who was it?
Joe Lewis, the
Right,
boxer. Joe
right. And
Lewis.
he helped Ted Rhodes, I
Well,
believe.
the story is they were protesting the San Diego Open, and they said, "Okay, we'll let you play. We'll let them play." So Joe Lewis, Ted Rose, Sippert all went. Bill Spiller, all went to San Diego to play. They got there, and they said, "Well, we'll let one of you play. We'll let Joe play because he's known." So they still wouldn't let him play after saying they would let him play. But
And
then once they did open it up, they had to endure a lot of things that
harsh situations. Yeah.
harsh situations, folks stepping on their balls, throwing their balls off the fairway. There was even a story of someone defecating in the putting it in a cup with somebody's ball that was in the cup. Uh, in fact, Lee Elder was subjected. He had hit a shot to a green, and a fan came out of the stand and threw it off the green. And it was actually another player, a Caucasian player, who pointed it out so that he would not be penalized for that. So there was, I'm sure, a lot of individuals who wanted to end the segregation. And then there were others who were very pleased to keep it that way. One who is another player I had a chance to play with once in a program out in California, uh, Gary Player.
Yep.
Gary Player, uh, a lot of folks don't know all that he had done to fight. He, as you know, he's from South Africa. And of course, the apartheid system, it just took forever for that to come down. But Gary Player was opposed to it for a long time. He actually started several schools for minorities in South Africa before apartheid was in it. He invited
Lee Elder.
the elder to play in South
Yep.
Africa. I think it was in 70, 71, around that time frame.
And he was the first, Lee Elder was the first to play on that European, Australian type event circuit.
Yes. And the other interesting issue on that one, Gary Player insisted that that tournament that he played in would not be subject to the normal segregated affairs that they had in South Africa, and that Lee Elder would not be segregated to the apartheid system as to where he could stay, where he could eat while he was there.
And he had to get special permission, because I saw that interview recently. He had to get special permission from what we would call the president. I think is their prime minister, or whatever at the time, and it was difficult.
It was very difficult. I mean, you're talking about bringing down a whole institution to do that.
Yeah. But the other thing that was interesting is that even over Gary Player admitted that when he was here in the U.S., he at first didn't understand what was happening, and it took a year or two or whatever before he understood that apartheid and what was happening in the U.S. were the same. And he changed his entire perspective of how people were being treated, because over there they were taught that apartheid that's just the way it was supposed to be. It's
normal. It's got to be that way. Right?
So I mean, we get into this, but this
Jim Crow and apartheid, just same word, just semantics.
Yeah, and we got into this kind of off of Lee Elder because he was a central piece of that entire changing of South Africa's situation and breaking it here in the Masters. Ed Rhodes and the rest of them actually played so good that they had to change most opens to an invitational because they ran into a situation where the guys knew they won't get beat.
And Sean, we've always talked about standing on the shoulders of others. Clearly, a lot of us stood on the shoulders of Lee Elder, but Lee Elder stood on the shoulders of Bill Powell and Charlie Sifford. Charlie, who I fortunately had a chance to meet also before he passed. I went to his induction into the Hall of Fame, and he gave a very passionate speech there and talked about the difficulties he went through. Now, Lee Elder was the first to play in the Masters. Charlie Sifford was the first to qualify to play in the Masters.
Yeah.
Charlie Sifford won 2 PGA events, but because of the invitational aspect of the Masters, he was never invited. In fact, when he was leading the Canadian Open, as he was coming down the 18th fairway, the rumor or the folklore is that the club at Augusta had a special call meeting and made the announcement that the winner of the Canadian Open was no longer automatically invited to the Masters.
Yep.
So it reminds me of something I heard just recently. It's not original from me. I think it's been used over and over. It says, you can't climb the mountain if it was smooth. and you have to think about that.
Yep. So
you think about how rough these individuals had it But because it was rough, they were able to climb the mountain.
So you gone to what I would consider the mecca of uh, golf as far as owning and operating,
Hmm.
and you have been an Omega since '70.
Yes.
So you know to those younger brothers that are 92, people don't realize that we learned a lot of just how to be a person, not only in Omega, but just the friendships that y'all gave us and those and that respect of understanding that there's more to life and really trying to reach out and see, just get involved and do something. Because when I left celebrity golf tournaments back then, you're sitting there and you're driving. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know
Hold
this
on,
is
Alan.
gonna be unfair, but
Alan, let me call you back. I'm actually in an interview right now.
hey, this is just one of
Have,
them real situations. We had to.
have you know that had to be a brother calling me,
Oh,
right?
but I mean, and it's funny even that pops up because I've one of the things that used to inspire me when we were doing the celebrity golf tournaments and even the Q tour was you would be sitting in a golf cart. And back then it was a random draw. You didn't know who you were gonna be playing with, things of that nature, which I thought was a very good idea at the time. And I met a federal court judge. I met Joe Torre and other individuals that
Mhm.
just would just be normal guys. And you sit there for 4 hours and you're talking to a federal court judge and colonels, generals, all this stuff, and they didn't care about I mean, in fact, it was funny. It was that one microcosm where it didn't matter what your title was. You were just playing golf, and my goal was to beat you.
It's
I mean,
it, it if, even before the Q tour, my Pi chapter brothers used to come down the very first year I had the course, and they came down every year I had the course, and they used to call it the Omega Fun Weekend. And I remember after the first year, some of my members asking, "Well, who are these guys?" And all, and I explained Omega to them and all that. And I said, by the way, that individual over there, he's a dentist. That individual there, oh, he's the CEO of Fannie Mae. Oh, he's a full bird colonel. Uh, he's the vice president of finance at so and so. Oh, Alex Small, he is a federal judge in Delaware. Oh, Ray Carroll, he's the one at Fannie Mae. And by the way, these are all my line brothers. And
yeah,
they were like, what? I said, yeah, they're all educated, highly successful, but Omega is for life.
yep,
We're some of the best friends ever. We're still best friends. We still communicate, but we can have fun with it, have a lot of fun with it, and we still work in Omega. I just gave up my committee position as the house chairman of our fraternity house in Jacksonville, where brothers were just amazed that, wait a minute, this 50-year brothers, and he's here taking care of our frat house for us, doing all this and doing all that. And I said, everybody needs to do something in Omega.
yep.
I've been a boss list in a couple of chapters. I've been a KRS, you know, been through those ranks. And now it's our chance to step back and train up the next generation of Omega men. I'm so glad to see that Omega has gone back to choosing Omega men instead of men choosing Omega,
Yep.
because that's what it should be. That's what it's all about. And I had numerous times where I had to talk to young brothers in different settings and say, excuse me, brother, introduce myself, and had them introduce themselves, and then talked about something they may or been doing, and reminded them that they represented Omega.
So to let you know, I'm coming down to TPC for my 50th birthday in January. So don't be
Okay.
surprised if I swing through and say hello to you.
Well,
Uh,
the TPC is only about 20 minutes from where I live.
I know. That's why I threw it
And
out there to you.
and I play it at least once a year. In fact, I volunteer doing the TPC tournament. I like to stay in touch with the game, and I marshal on the 15th hole inside the ropes, so I get to talk to all the players and have a lot of fun with those guys. Uh, and as a reward for doing that, you get to play the course.
That's what I'm talking about. So I met you when I was a young Omega and a young brother in golf. And you always gave me great encouragement as far as just doing better in golf and really more in life. It was really kind of interesting when like I said, you influenced a lot of Omegas and a lot of great men, and you don't even realize it in some cases after some of our discussions. But if you had it, well, you still have the opportunity, but for individuals that might be watching this today and they may be new to golf or been in it for a while or maybe an Omega or maybe not even an Omega, what is that little piece of wisdom you'd like to give them about the game of golf that has influenced you most in your life?
I think the key thing goes back to what I said earlier. You've got to have the fundamentals, no matter what you're in, whether it's business, public speaking, uh, TV producing, radio producing. Learn the fundamentals. Learn from others, no matter how good or how bad they are. Learn from them. Learn their mistakes. Learn not to do it. Learn what makes them great, what makes them good. Emulate, imitate, and then take it to the next level. Uh, Within the frat, same thing. We all crossed the same way, the same test. But when you look around the room and you see the 25-year pins, the 40-year pins, the 50-year pins, observe those brothers. See how they carry themselves. See how they analyze the issues. Get to know those brothers. Talk to them. Ask them how, why, what, and then see how that fits in with what you're doing. You know, my favorite passage within Omegas: 8 men thoroughly immersed in the true Omega spirit are far greater asset than 80 with lukewarm attitudes. If you're going to be an Omega, we don't want lukewarm attitudes. Find out where you can serve and serve. We all can't lead. In fact, you can't lead if you don't know how to follow.
Amen. Amen. Brad TC, this is a great honor for me because I don't really think that people understand, you know, there are a lot of people on the Q tour that love you to death because of
Oh, those some of my favorite folks.
oh man,
I remember the first when we first started having the Q tour events. One of my, I think I may have told you this story. One of my cart girls came to me and said, "Mr. Newman, now you and your group, you guys look like you're playing golf, but there's some folks behind you. I think they're on the Easter egg hunt. Every time I look, they're in the woods."
That's the brothers.
But I will have to say, I'm so proud of the Q tour that started as a, hey, let's go play golf,
Yep.
to a highly efficient, well-functioning organization that has truly taken it to the next level. Uh, I think those brothers exemplify a lot of what we've talked about tonight, Sean, that they've learned the fundamentals. Then they've learned the business side of running the Q Tour. Not that they're trying to make a profit, but it is run like a business. They have systems in place. I mean, if you get a notice that they've got an event,
It's sold out
if
in
you
an
don't
hour.
sign up in 24 hours, you're not
You got to
getting
make
in.
some serious. Look, you can't consider it at the time the notice comes out. You
No,
have to have
already know.
pre-figured out that you're going or not. Because
That's
if
for
you
sure.
wait too long, you will be out. And that's
Yes.
for the 140 to 170. They actually cut it because of COVID. And
Hmm.
brothers, that you don't have time to think on it. You got to make a decision and go for it because it sells. And the swag bags, like you said, the
Oh,
business
yeah.
part of
It
it
is
is
just
is
fantastic.
it's mechanized. It's like a PGA tour event.
Oh, it's a great event. You talk about the fellowship. I really like the motto. You 10%
90%
golf,
fellowship,
90%.
10% golf.
Mhm. And in
And
fact, the last time I was twice in the last couple of years, I've been out of town on family matters, so family get-togethers, and I've been able to call the Q Tour brother each time and say, "Look, I'm in town. Uh, where the brothers playing?" And each time I've ended
oh yeah,
up playing
you
golf
can get
because
in our fraternity, if you pick up the phone, you're gonna get a game. It doesn't matter where part of the country you're in, you can get a game. That's how easy it is in our. But TC, you brought up an interesting point that I think I need to know because you had talked about this in Florida, and I'm not up to that level yet, but I always like to challenge myself a little bit. What you shooting at, TC?
uh,
Oh, I put him on the
my
spot because it might be some folks out there that's wondering.
no, no, I still play from the blue tees. Uh, my official handicap, in fact, I just got it, so I can show it to you if you want to see it, is 6.5.
Woo,
Uh, and I'm probably playing once every 2 weeks.
okay,
And
okay.
what I find interesting is when I do go there and I walk to the blue tees, and I'll have individuals, non-brothers, non-African Americans playing with me who said, "Oh no, we're seniors, we're moving up." And I said, "You are? Okay." The guy said, "Yeah, I'm 62 and he's 60 and he's 55." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'm going to play from back here." And then I'll hit a shot and I'll be 20, 30 yards ahead of where they hit from. And then, casually mentioned, I said, I'm going to move to the senior tour one day, but
For now,
at 71, I'm not going to go up there yet.
yeah, not
And then
now.
all of a sudden their whole perspective changes.
Yeah, I
And it
had
just,
that happen about a week or two ago, also. Because it
well, we're not expected to be out there, Sean.
no, no,
We could go on for hours on this, but even with the Tiger Woods, even with Charlie Sifford being in the Hall of Fame, even with Lee Elder, there are still pockets that see us, and when I say us generically, that there's certain things that we don't do or don't do well.
and
You
I
know,
hear that you're also able to, let's just say, subdue young brothers who feel froggy periodically about the
I
fact that
had a
you have
had a
the club there.
I had a couple of those within the
Yeah,
last couple of months that
yeah.
put out a challenge. And then
Oh,
they tried to take it back, and I said, "No,
oh,
no,
yeah.
you've
You
got to
don't do
go
that to
through it.
Omega Man. That
You,
doesn't. You got to go all in, or you don't
you
get.
got to go through it.
Yeah,
Got to
yeah.
go through it." No, I just enjoy the game. I enjoy the fellowship. I enjoy the competition. I don't always do it right, and you know we can go on and on, Chuck,
Yes.
because I've talked to a lot of youth groups, and sometimes I'll use the golf course as a metaphor of life. I say, we get a chance on the tee box. Everybody gets to be on the tee box, but then you have to hit the ball. And the ideal is to stay in the fairway.
Yep.
But sometimes you're going to be in the rough. But the great thing about the game of golf and the game of life if you have the skills, you have the desire, you can hit the ball out of the rough back on the green.
Yep.
And life is the same way. We all have a chance to start, but some of us go astray at times. And the guidance and the direction that we get when we go astray will determine whether we get back on the green.
And
So
eventually, we might even get the ball in the little hole.
and that's the ultimate. Get it back in the hole. But when we start talking about that, you got the hazards out there. You try to avoid those hazards.
The saying that slows you.
But if you get in the hazard, there is a way to get out of the hazard.
Yep.
But it takes practice, takes patience, takes guidance, and takes help.
And see, this is the kind of stuff that you would bestow upon us while we're sitting in the clubhouse, just generally talking. So, TC, again, I can't tell you how honored it is to have this conversation.
Look forward
with
to seeing you again, Sean. And don't come to the TPC without hitting me up.
Yes, sir.
And us having lunch.
See, this is how the older brothers talk to you. They give orders. They don't just give
because
it's an order.
Because
don't
if I see you and I hear you talking to the younger brothers about what you did on the 17th at the TPC, and I'm going, you were where, John?
Yeah. See, this is how you get caught, right there.
Yeah.
But TC Newman, I do want to say thank you for coming in and talking to the group. I mean, myself and all of the individuals that watch this, and I will be seeing you because
right.
I've had look. I got my marching orders from 50s. I mean 70s. So it is what it is. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate y'all tuning in and watching. I hope you got a better perspective of not just playing golf, but why people love and get involved in golf to the level. It's more than just hitting a golf ball. There's a lot of things that happen in golf that is special to individuals that deals with life. And Brother Newman has been great about not just the game of golf, but the game of life, and letting individuals know and supporting the economic side of it and the social side. And so
special thanks to the brothers who supported me.
Yes.
Through the ups and the downs.
Yep.
It's not always been up. There have been some downs.
Well, and that again, that's part of life, and you pointed that out to a lot of us over the time. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you, and Brother TC, keep swinging, baby. Keep swinging.